Right, let's move on now and shift our attention to China. It could be planning an invasion of its own, and that's the claim of the United States. Yes, I'm talking about Taiwan. The threat of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan has always been there. But Washington has reason to believe that Beijing is now working on a much faster timeline. Those are not my words. That's what Antony Blinken has to say. The US Secretary of State has shared his assessment. He believes there has been a change in Beijing's approach from Taiwan. Listen in now to what he said. I'm quoting. If peaceful means didn't work, then it would employ coercive means, and possibly, if coercive means don't work, maybe forceful means to achieve its objectives. And that is what is profoundly disrupting the status quo and creating tremendous tensions. So what's driving this assessment from Blinken? Was it the recent speech from Xi Jinping? It is possible, because the Chinese president refused to renounce the use of force to take Taiwan. Listen in.
The resolution of the Taiwan issue is a matter for the Chinese ourselves to decide. We insist on striving for the prospect of peaceful reunification with the greatest sincerity and with the greatest effort. However, we are not committed to abandoning the use of force, and we reserve the option of taking all necessary measures. This is aimed at the interference of external forces and a very small number of Taiwan independent separatists and their secessionist activities, and not at the compatriots in Taiwan at large.
We reserve the option to take all necessary measures. It is as clear as it can get. Taipei has shot back a stern response. The statement comes from the presidential office. It said, Taiwan won't back down on national sovereignty, and it will not compromise on democracy and freedom. The statement also said that war is not an option, but some Taiwanese officials believe that a conflict is inevitable. This is not a matter of if they will invade, it's a matter of when they will invade. That's what Admiral Lee Sai-min said recently. He used to head the armed forces of Taiwan. America too has reasons to believe that China is working to a timeline. Last year, the then commander of the US Indo-Pacific Command had delivered a testimony. Admiral Philip Davidson has spoken to lawmakers. We have a copy of his testimony now. He was specifically asked about China's likely timelines, and here is the answer that he gave. I'm quoting again. I think the threat is manifest during this decade, in fact, in the next 6 years. Can a potential military conflict happen sooner than that? It is possible, because Xi Jinping wants his military to move faster. That's right. The Chinese president has delivered his work report to the Communist Party. What is that? It's a comprehensive view of the achievements of the government. More importantly, it sets the policy for the coming year. In this year's work report, Xi Jinping has given some specific instructions to his troops. Let me now read them out for you. These are Xi Jinping's words. The use of military power needs to be normalized and used in diverse ways. We need to be able to stage military operations readily, deter and control risks and conflicts, and win regional wars. The mandate is clear. Xi Jinping now wants a PLA that can win wars for him. And the Chinese military must move faster to reach that level. It is a clear signal of intent. China has intensified pressure on Taiwan this year. Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island triggered unprecedented drills by the Chinese side. Since then, lawmakers from the United States and other Western nations have paid visits to Taiwan. China has responded with more military coercion. It is becoming a predictable pattern now, and this will continue. Considering the dangerous signals that are coming out of Beijing now. And to discuss China's Taiwan rhetoric further, joining me now on Gravitas is Greg Swenson, an international affairs expert. He joins us from London. Greg, my first question, what do you make of Secretary Blinken's comments saying China's plans to annex Taiwan are moving much faster?
It's a great question. I think Secretary of State Blinken was wise to indicate the concern, at least for the, on behalf of the United States, that Xi wants to ramp this up. But there is no definite, or there was really no definitive statement. So it might be that Secretary of State Blinken just wants to make the issue, elevate the issue to the public. But there was no real, I don't think there was really a cause for concern on any specific comments from Xi. I think it might be accelerated, but it could also be a longer term plan, looking out to the centennial anniversary of China in I guess it would be 2049.
Right, it's interesting you say that because Xi Jinping told the Communist Party Congress that Taiwan is at the core to plans for China's so-called rejuvenation. How do you view this?
Yes, I mean, look, it should be concerning to the United States and specifically to Secretary of State Blinken. So I think he's wise to make note of it, but I don't think that it's wise to elevate the issue too much. There's really been no definitive statements. But I think it's nice to see Secretary of State Blinken actually make those comments, especially given the meeting that he had with Jake Sullivan at the beginning of the Biden administration in Alaska with officials from the CCP, where they were really basically schooled in this meeting and really demonstrated weakness in front of these officials. So I think it was good that he's trying to come out with a little bit more emphasis and alarm about the Taiwan situation. It's definitely something that's not going away, and I think it's wise to elevate the issue.
Right, Greg, just a final question there. Experts say that Xi's Taiwan rhetoric has raised the specter of war. What do you think?
Yes, of course. Nobody wants that, and I think that it would be unwise of the CCP to enter into any sort of armed conflict. Obviously, they would like to do this without, annex Taiwan without any armed conflict. But just the fact that they're discussing it should be a concern. I hope that it elevates the issue in the United States enough to basically encourage the Congress to allocate more funds for defense spending. There's a real concern in the U.S. With defense spending, the Pentagon budget at 3% of GDP, when in the 80s it was 5 to 6% of GDP. So there's a lot of push, even from the Democrats, to get that defense budget up to the historical levels of 5 or 6% of GDP. There's really concerns. There are great concerns about the Navy right now, which is only delivered. They're delivering ships at a much slower pace than expected. Granted, they've gone from 291 to 296 ships since 2005, but that's not enough. China has gone from 216 to 360. You've got the fighter planes and bombers at only 40% of the capacity of the 1980s, and the Army is down $59 billion in buying power just since 2018. So these are real issues in the United States. So if the concern about Taiwan elevates these concerns and encourages the Congress and hopefully the president to spend more money on defense, I think that's a good outcome.
Right, Greg, thanks so much for all those inputs and thanks for joining us. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.